How you doing tonight, Chloe?
I'm doing good. How are you, Troy?
I'm doing excellent. So I know in your lifetime you've had a ton of hard wrestling matches. You've done very
Oh,
well,
yes.
but I'm almost willing to bet that every night about 8 o'clock, you have the toughest match of your life with that little Spitfire of yours, Jovi. What's
Oh,
it like? What's it like being mom and having to wrestle nightly with your daughter?
so obviously it has been a huge change. She's now, in her terrible twos. People that say that that's not real, it's definitely real. She, she is a Spitfire at night. I guess I've been told that I'm getting payback for what I was like when I was little to my parents. So every night, instantly, when we're getting her ready to go to bed, she's big daddy's girl, so she goes to him instantly. She don't let me get her ready for bed. It has to be him every single time. So when he's not around, it is like a full blown 6 minute overtime wrestling match right away. But once we get her going, it's smooth sailing from there. But yes, I would say that's probably my toughest match.
Yeah, I know. I heard that multiple times when we were just a couple weeks ago. We were at a birthday party
Yeah.
together and heard that many times. Well, this is just payback, just
Yes.
payback. So, for those that don't know, I'm talking to Chloe Loyd. Chloe was a state champion for PV Pleasant Valley, national champion for Indian Hills. You now the third. This will be your third season at Center Point Urbana CPU. You married a state champion, so I always hear the you married into the wrestling breeding program. Two state champions, mom of two, Jovi and Roz.
Yep.
How are you? You know, I've already said how you doing tonight, but
hmm
just you're always busy. So how are things going?
Well, there's never a dull moment in my life. That's just part of the wrestling, culture. That's just part of the lifestyle that you get into. And it never really stops. So obviously with me coaching now and Eli's coaching now, my dad's coaching with me. It's a family ordeal for sure. And my mom and my grandma are along for a ride with the kids. The kids come with to the tournaments, they come with to the meets. But we're always on the go, like off season is never really off season. We're always looking ahead. We're always scheduling ahead. We always have off season events going on. This summer we had some girls go to Disney for AU this year. And then we kicked back right up with pre off season open mats at the school. We're kind of kicking those back up now, trying to get some new recruits coming in for this upcoming season. But it's always busy. It never stops. But I don't know what I would do if my life slowed down, honestly. I think I'd be
Yeah.
bored.
No, I agree with you. And you just got a new job working at the school
Yes.
now.
Yep. So I
That's
just got a secretary position at it's our intermediate school, so we got third, fourth, fifth there. It's a little different than some other school districts, so our elementaries are separated, so it'll allow me to kind of be more flexible with my coaching schedule.
that's awesome. I wasn't sure what school you were in, but that'll probably pay dividends down the road because those girls that are in third, fourth, and fifth grade are
hmm
going to know who Coach Lloyd is. So
Yes.
they'll be coming around. That's awesome. So you married into another wrestling family,
Uh-huh.
Eli Lloyd, state champion. Um,
Yes.
how did that end up happening?
Oh, this is my favorite story, Troy. I don't know
It's
if
a
you've heard
great.
it before or not, but so as you know, I wrestled for DC Elite under Dustin Kufal. And Eli had also wrestled for DC Elite under Dustin Kufal. So for as I guess for quite a few years we had crossed paths without ever actually knowing each other. Until Oh, it was my junior year. We had crossed paths back probably in December of our junior season for a practice one night. I believe it was probably at West Liberty. They were holding practices there for DC Elite, and Jason happened to be there. So it was the first time I'd ever met Jason. My dad was there. We had first time ever actually meeting them, and so just happened to do introductions. Dustin was introducing who Eli was. I think he was running practice that day. Then a couple months later, we're fast forwarding to the end of January, and Jefferson at the time where I was holding an all girls wrestling tournament. there. Um, and Jason brought a lot of his girls that he was coaching to that tournament. And lo and behold, he had a lug Eli around with him. So I was at one of the mats, and Eli and one of his friends were, I guess, betting on who was going to come up and talk to me first. And so they happened to stop one of my teammates and asked if I was single, and they told them no, that I was not single. I was,
They were
but my
protecting you.
teammates were we were all very close knit. So,
Yep.
but Eli was the person that came up to me and he chit chatted with me the whole tournament and then left me high and dry at the end. So, me being as stubborn as I am, I wasn't going to take that and went and tracked him down on Facebook. And, we started talking there and exchanged numbers and then figured out like, hey, we've been crossing paths this whole time. And then Kat ended up stopping me at, I think it was uh, at Bettendorf Midwest Shootout, and just stopped me dead in my tracks. She knew who I was, but I hadn't actually met her yet. And Eli and I hadn't been dating quite yet, but I think he had been maybe mentioning me to her, so she knew who I was. And then by the end of January, we were dating and we ended up at the state tournament. And so got to support him there at the year that he won state his junior year. And it's kind of just been a wild ride for sure. And it's never a dull moment being in the Loyd family that I've learned. So
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with you there. It's kind of they're a fun group. They're kind of
yes, they
they
are.
are a fun group to be around. But
Yes, they are.
um, everything's worked out great. You went to college together, all this.
Yep.
But the two really cool things that have come out of this, Jovi and Roz,
Yes.
what's and they're opposites from what I can tell.
Very much so. So Jovi, she's our 2-year-old. She was born in April of 23, which was the year of the first sanctioned girls state wrestling tournament that year. And so, oh, that year I was pregnant and I was coaching my first high school season. And she came into the world already a spitfire right away. And it's been amazing to get to see her kind of grow these last 2 years and just see her personality. If she doesn't wrestle, I think I'm in big trouble because I don't know what I'm going to do with all that ball of energy that she
Yeah,
has. Um, and then 4 months ago, I welcomed my son back in March. And he is polar opposite. I think he's going to be the calm one, maybe the one that kind of slows her down a little bit, with a secret ball of fire of his own. He's very
yeah.
much just like content, just sitting wherever, um, but just watches and analyzes everything. And he's just so mesmerized with everything that's going on around him, where Jovi's just like ping, ping, ping all over. So
Yeah.
they are polar opposites, but definitely I think they mesh well with each other. I'm excited to see, as they get older and can start playing and talking to each other, it's how that's going to play out. But I
Well,
think they're going to end up being best friends. At least I hope
yeah.
so.
They always tell you to be watch the quiet ones. So
Yes.
he might actually be the one that's the kind of quiet but causes those behind the scene problems.
Oh,
So
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
so being a mom and coach, that's got to present some things that, as male
hmm
coaches, we don't think about these things, but I'm sure that there's been some different things that have come up, and these are things that are going to happen over and over and over and over again as
hmm
girls your age start coming into the back into the sport as coaches,
Yeah.
and as those college girls graduate, or women, I guess, could graduate and have
hmm
start having families and they're coaching. What are some of the challenges with coaching with children?
So obviously like your schedule's always changing. Like I'm always a full-time mom. Obviously that's my full-time job. But I have a passion for coaching and luckily, I like I said, I have the family that's what we do. So I've been lucky that we have a lot of support and a lot of help when it comes to, watching the kids, especially during the high school season. I mean, we are gone at practice every single day. I'm at work every single day, and then we might be going to a tournament on a Tuesday, on a Thursday, or heading to a tournament on a Saturday. So definitely just I've been lucky to have support, but when it comes to, you know, the seasons, I always have to try to make sure that I do balance time to be around my kids and that, I'm actively in their lives, even though it's the busiest time of the season. So I always, and this everybody's different and it does get stressful. Your kids get sick, maybe they don't get to go to school or daycare that day. Um, but, I always just find that communication, Center Point, for instance, is a really small community. I'm really close knit with a lot of my girls' families, and they're always eager to jump in and help anytime. So I always communicate, what's going on with them. I think that, being open with that kind of stuff, because obviously they know I have kids, they know I have littles, they understand themselves, their families themselves, just reaching out and asking for help. Especially, my kids come around to tournaments and it's not always my mom watching them. It could be, my athlete's mom, it could be my athlete's sister, and they're always eager to step in and help. So I think when, people come out and they're like, oh, how do you do it? I ask for help, and that's hard sometimes to just kind of get out there and do that. But I think, as people start having families, that's just got to be something that they are going to be having to willing to be able to do. But it goes a long way. It does, really. And they truly enjoy it, and I enjoy it, and we get to laugh with each other. My kids get to grow up with pretty much tons of aunts and uncles and cousins and extra siblings. So it's definitely a stressful but joyous process.
Yeah, and I would say you're setting an example for the girls that you're coaching. You're
Hmm.
you're showing them, family obviously does come first with you. I mean, they're there. They're there with you. So, that's it's kind of a neat thing to see that happening in the
Yeah.
the whole close-knit part of the girls wrestling. Um, Preview. What's the team looking like this next year? How are things
Yes.
going?
So last year we grew to 14. The previous season we had six. And so that was a pretty big growth for us. Um, Out of our 14, we had five that were in a really condensed weight between like 145 and 140. So even though I had extra girls, we were all stuck in the same weight
Yeah.
classes. Towards the end of the season, we started kind of stretching out that lineup a little bit, as girls shifted and things like that. But coming in this season, I know we'll definitely have 14. I'm hoping that my golden ticket number is probably 18. I know for sure we'll be stretched out. I'll have a 100 pounder this year. I'll have a couple 105 pounders this year for sure. And I'm hoping that I can maybe snag a 120 pounder in there. You think that weight's like a popular weight, but it
Yeah.
all depends. So the last couple seasons I've had a lot of the upper weights, like 130 up, and I've had no lower weights. This year it's flip-flopping and it's going, I have all the lower weights and not very many upper weights. So, but I think we should hypothetically have just maybe one or two spots open this year. So I'm definitely looking forward to that change to be able to kind of compete in those duels a little bit more competitively this upcoming season. Um, this year a little bit different. Womack has finally decided to kind of start honing down on the conference duels for this season. So it's actually like mandatory this year. The last couple of years, they didn't know how it was going to play out, with certain teams not having very big dual teams. So we have those set up for this year. Um, so that's a bit of a change. And we are just jam packed. We're trying to make it to a couple different tournaments across the state to see a couple different girls. In the last couple of seasons, we've just kind of been really repetitive, with the same kind of competition. We see the same type of girls throughout the season. So I know that was something that was big that my girls wanted to do, was get across the state a little bit. So we're gonna have a couple of those. And we got our first ever varsity and JV tournament coming up. Last year in January, the first weekend of January, we held our JV, all JV tournament. It went really, really well. And we had a lot of great feedback. So this year we're actually going to add a varsity portion to it. And so far we've had good feedback from teams that have entered already. But it was something that was, that my girls really, really wanted. They wanted to be able to showcase to their community, their skill and their team. So, and that varsity portion will kind of allow some of our more experienced girls to be able to participate in that too, which was important to them. So definitely looking forward to that, this upcoming season. But it's action packed from the start to the finish right away. So, no dull moments this upcoming season.
Yeah, and that's nice that you're going to have conference duels. Hopefully the teams start filling out and you have some good
Yeah.
matchups and everything. That changes schedules a lot. It helps
Yes.
out. It's not as much travel. It's not as
No.
much missing school, things like that. Those are things I'm
Hmm.
kind of hoping that we get to over in my conference also in the next few
Yep.
years. Just it's a ways off for us, I have a feeling.
Yeah.
Let's let's travel back in time a little ways. I'm gonna
Okay.
go back to your high school days, but I actually met you. The first time I ran into you would have been at, I don't know if it was Mad at Dreams or Conflict for Charity, which day it was. It was probably the individual tournament, I believe.
Yes. I think it was conflict for charity that year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you were wrestling Keegan, who I coached, and
Hmm.
that match they somehow screwed up the time to where you
Yes.
were wrestling like a junior high or elementary school thing, and we had to
Time. Yep.
restart. Yeah, we had to restart the entire match, and
Yes.
ever since then I've talked to your mom and dad and you at about every tournament. So
Yes.
how did you get started wrestling, and then
Yeah.
how were those old days of wrestling for you?
So I got started in what would have been my seventh grade year. And at that time I was going to Vinton Shellsburg Middle School. And so they had said over the intercom, that wrestling season was coming up and they were doing sign-ups for it. I ended up going home that day and saying, Dad, I'm going to sign up for wrestling. We had never talked wrestling before. My younger brothers, had wrestled and stuff like that, but like never before have we ever mentioned myself. And so it was very out of the blue. It took my dad completely by surprise. He kind of was like dumbfounded when I threw that on him in the car one day on the way
Uh,
home. But from there he was like, "Oh, your mom's not going to let you do that," And so he went home and they had talked and he's like, "Who are we to tell her what she can and can't do, what she can and can't try? That's for her to decide," which I've been blessed to be able to, have them be so supportive from the beginning and just let me, run my own trials with things, right? And so then we had to rush and go get me some shoes and some, knee pads and all that kind of stuff. And I started, I think, 2 days later. It was tough. Middle school, that's just how it is, in middle school. Um, and the boys at that time, I'm gonna be honest, they weren't accepting of it, but my coaches were accepting, and they didn't let, them just run all over and just, be disrespectful. My goal was that I was going to earn their respect and I wasn't in there to just goof around. I was being serious about it. I think that was the first thing that kind of threw them off a little bit. Like, oh, she's, coming into the sport, she's not going to take it seriously, or like, who does she think she is? That kind of thing. But as the season went on, that first tournament came up and it didn't go the way I wanted it. But as I think the next couple tournaments came around, I ended up my first ever match that I won. Then it was like from there it was smooth sailing. They respected me and they seen, hey, this girl's like legit, like she's not just playing around. We were wrong. Um and so that just took off, right? And so then finished out that season. I can't recall how many matches I actually won that season of my seventh grade year. But took off that season. My family ended up moving us to Center Point at the time, which is where I ended up for my eighth grade and freshman season. Came in eighth grade, uh, totally different. I had a lot more skills under my belt. Still, I would say green, right? A lot of those
yeah.
guys have been wrestling since they were in kindergarten, so coming in at that point, into the sport was it was a little tough to play catch up. But I think that season was a little bit more competitive for me. I was in shape a lot quicker. That's probably was my biggest battle. My first season, my seventh grade year was because wrestling shape is unlike any other sports. shape. You know, I was a gymnast, I played soccer, I had done softball, and nothing had ever compared to what wrestling shape is. And I tell that to my athletes to this day. Like a lot of them are solid athletes, but they just don't understand until they get into that room. So fast forward to my freshman season at Center Point. I started for them as a 106 pounder there on the varsity lineup. Um, Kind of jumped in and out with a couple different guys every once in a while. That season went, fairly good for me. At that point, it was kind of, 106 is a hit or miss weight class in the
Yep.
boys realm of things, especially in the 2A sense. So not everywhere we went did we have 106 pounders. So I took every match, for what it was. I was just somebody that was, I don't care, what this guy's record was. I didn't care if they were a state champ, if they were a district champ. I didn't, how much experience they had. I was just always somebody that would toe the line. Like that was just my goal. Um, and I would make little goals for myself, So like my goal is, this guy's a state champ. Okay, I want to make it through the first period. I want to not get pinned. I want to, maybe make it into the second period. Those were all wins for me. I might have not won the match, but if I, succeeded in those goals for myself, that was a win. Um, so end of that season, I went to Tulsa Nationals at the end of my freshman season. Ended up tearing my shoulder, which ended up getting my surgery my freshman season, end of my freshman season, which put me out for the most of my sophomore year. Ended up probably wrestling 3 matches. I ended up having nerve damage in that same shoulder. So
Ooh.
most of my sophomore season was uh, rehabilitation. I pretty much had to learn how to relift up my arm. It was pretty traumatic injury for me. And obviously with any surgery, you put on a little extra weight that you didn't expect to have. So I think that kind of brings us up to that tournament that I wrestled Keegan King, and I came in at 125 pounds that year.
Uh-huh.
Or at least that's what the bracket was coming into I think my junior season or beginning of my junior season that year. Um, and that was probably my takeoff year. That was probably the year I was the most healthy. Um, Honestly, out of any of my high school seasons. So that year I wrestled at Jefferson, wrestled 120 for them. Kind of flip flopped in the varsity lineup every once in a while, but 120 is kind of a hard weight to make uh, a varsity lineup spot on a men's team.
Yep.
But my teammates, we were all very close, very, very close. My coaches, Chad Garber was my coach at the time there, and he coached JV also. And so he was always just somebody that was in my corner when I was there. And I honestly, without support, without like good coaches in your corner, it's hard to be successful and feel successful and have somebody, that's going to keep lifting you up without, coaches that believe in you. And so I've been blessed to have coaches like that in my corner throughout my high school career. That was the year they announced the first IWCOA unsanctioned
Yep.
girls state tournament at Waverly. So I ended up going and winning that title for Jefferson that year, my junior year. And then met Eli. He got me transferred to Pleasant Valley, and that was a circus in itself, but it was a fun season. I ended up wrestling 113 that season. I felt really, really well. But that past summer, I went to Fargo for the first time and ended up uh, tearing my UCL and had to have a full reconstruction in it. But I decided to hold that off. So the whole senior season, I was wrestling with a completely blown UCL in my elbow. So I always had a
Oh,
brace on my elbow that people had never seen before. I see them all the time now, but
yeah.
nobody had ever seen that brace before. So I'd always get patted down for things. Um, but that season went great. I won. I think that was my most competitive season against boys. I had had a lot of experience with it. I was used to the grind of going out there and wrestling boys because some girls haven't experienced that. They haven't had to, in the last couple of years, and so and it was when you stepped out there, you had to be ready for a full blown grind of a match. You had to be ready for everything, and I'm not gonna lie, there was days where, yeah, my shoulder got torqued or, this hurt and that hurt, but that's just what it was, right?
Yep.
That's
That,
what I signed up for. So,
yep.
um, went to the second IWCOA state tournament for Pleasant Valley, won that year at 113 pounds. Finished off that season, got my elbow fixed, and then COVID hit us. So I'm always think that I've been blessed to be able to actually finish out that season. I know that some states hadn't even gotten to finish their high school wrestling season. So for me, that's a blessing in itself. That I was able to kind of accomplish what I set out to accomplish to finish my cap off my high school career.
Nice. There was something you said in there that I want to kind of go back to on coaching. You said you kind of redefine success, especially that
Mhm.
freshman year. Is it something that you use a lot now with girls coming in?
Yes. Yes, I do. So that's something that I've always and that's something that my dad kind of taught me. When I started, I took it really, really hard. I was just somebody that just held that stuff to my heart, when I didn't feel like I was doing good enough, or maybe I was mad because I wasn't getting understanding a certain move, right, in the wrestling room. And I just took that to heart, but didn't actually break it down like, hey, maybe I got faster this day. Maybe I actually kept my head up and my chest up, and when I shot in on somebody's leg, where previously I didn't do that. So even in practice, like I make those little goals for myself. I feel like today, girls come in, or just any athletes really, I talk about like unrealistic goals right away. Like maybe it's your first year and you're like, I want to be a state champ. That's great goal. But to get there, we have to have the small steps, right? So, I had a couple new girls that had never wrestled this year. I had a couple seniors that had never wrestled this year that came out for this last season. And to them, I just told them, you know what? Like, go out there. If you lose your first match, that's fine, but go into your second match and be like, what can I do different? This match, I want to actually get that takedown, right? This match, I want to not get turned over. This match, I want to make it to that second period. So I think that's what's kind of kept a steady head, and from that, my girls that don't have that, like quite as hard of that mental crash, right? I talk about those
Yep.
mental blocks a lot, those mental crashes. I can read my girls really, really well, and we have heart to heart talks, like truthfully heart to heart talks. And I tell them like when you hurt, I hurt, right? When you cry, I'm crying. When you're excited, I'm excited, right? And I break those down for them. I'm like, I know you're mad. I know you wanted that match, but here's what we didn't do. Here's our goals that we can make in our next match or our next tournament or our next duel. Here's what we can do going forward by the end of the season. What's our end of the season goal? We talk about like beginning of the season, mid season, end season goals too. And I this year I'm gonna have they're going to be written down, and it's going to be an expectation. We're going to go over them, and they're going to have certain goals for themselves coming into a tournament, certain goals coming into a duel. And we talk about, I'll break them down to them. If somebody writes something down that, I think is a great goal, but maybe not where we're at right now,
Yep.
right? We talk about how we can get there, and then what other goals can we make to kind of keep us on track towards that end piece, right? So I think that that's something that I would say, if other coaches aren't doing that right now, aren't talking about it right now, or maybe, are having troubles keeping their girls from having that mental crash. They do really well at the beginning of the season, then they're just burnt out. That would be something that just I think keeps a level head throughout the season. It is a long season and it's a lot of matches. I mean, these girls are getting 50 plus matches a season. So I mean, it's very easy to get burnout really fast. But I think if coaches are looking for other ways to kind of keep their kids steady throughout the season, that's just something that I found that has been, really successful in my career, and has kept my own kids, successful and steady throughout the season. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And especially I the reason I like seeing you say things like this and you talk about having the heart to hearts and you went through it.
Oh, yeah.
You can be someone they see themselves in.
Mm,
It's pretty hard for them to see themselves in me, some big old fat guy with a beard. So I mean that's I can't wait for the transition as more and more female coaches come back into the fold
yeah.
and coaches that have been there and absolutely nothing wrong with that
Hmm.
mom coach. I'd love to have a couple,
Yeah.
but I can't wait to have the ones that have been through it
Hmm.
that really can. That's where I think the sport really grows. I think
Oh
that's.
yeah.
I mean, we're obviously our numbers are growing now, but I think the more coaching we get back and those
Hmm.
things, I think huge things are going to happen.
Yeah. And
So.
I think just like, it sometimes it can be scary, like to talk to your girls or just you don't know how they're going to react to things. But, I tell my girls from the start, like, I'm not somebody to sugarcoat stuff, like I tell them, like what they're signing up for. It is a whole different ball game. So when they come in, like that's the expectation. So, throughout the season, if anything's ever said, I'll be like, have I ever told you that this was going to be easy? Right? Have I ever told you that this was going to be just like a smooth sailing, that there wasn't going to be bumps in the road? You won't ever catch me saying that ever. And so right away when they come in or I have my meet and greet with them, I'm very like blunt but honest. And I think they
Mhm.
appreciate that because then they're not like thrown into it or they don't know what to expect. It's very like plain and simple, just like fine line. Like I just tell them how it is. Like this is a sport, this is what we're about. Here's, and any sport injuries can happen, right? I think that's something that parents kind of put off on a sideline, but when you really break it down for them, you'd be like, okay, well, this can happen in volleyball. This can happen in basketball. Anything can happen. It's just that your daughter's just out there by herself, wrestling one on one with somebody rather than having a whole team of people and an injury happen. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Actually,
yeah.
I saw a stat not that long ago, and it's actually it was surprising, but I guess it's there are more injuries in competitive cheerleading than there are in wrestling.
You know what? Coming from being a gymnast and a cheerleader, I don't doubt that one bit.
Yep.
I don't doubt it. No.
So keep your kids out of cheerleading and get them in wrestling. Cheerleading's an evil, evil sport. So no, yeah, awesome. Yeah, great coaching stuff from you.
Yeah.
Um, you got recruited out of high school. We'll kind of going back into the high school mode here,
Yep.
but you and Eli probably kind of a package deal.
Yes.
Both you went to Indian Hills. What was the recruiting process like for you guys?
So at that time it was a little bit more competitive for Eli than it was for me. There's just more people knocking on the boys' doors than there was on the girls' doors at that point. Just with there wasn't nearly the amount of girls' colleges, or spread throughout all the different levels that there is now. I mean, we've been
Mhm.
blessed to have pretty much wrestling, girls wrestling throughout all levels of college at this point, in just the short 5 years that I've been out of high school. So I believe one day, Eli, he was always getting calls. And from the get-go, I always told him, you got to do what you want to do. But he'd always be like, hey, like he'd always ask, what college's plans were for girls wrestling, right? He was always looking out for me. And I appreciated that and it kind of helped because, I know we wanted to kind of stick with at least close by or same program. And so, Cole Spree called him one day. I think I was in physical therapy and I come out and I'm like, who the heck are you talking to? And he was all excited about this guy calling him. And so I didn't know who he was talking to until he hung up the phone. But he started talking about this guy named Cole Spree, and he's going to Indian Hills Community College, and they don't have a program, but they're building a program, and what their goals are. And he was right away was like, I know you're dating Chloe, and I want both of you, right? I want Iowa wrestlers to come to our program. And so I think that he just really spoke to Eli in a way that other coaches just kind of didn't. Um, Really gave him that kind of like spark, right? Like somebody that was like not didn't give him like that feeling of, well, I'm not really interested in girls wrestling, right? Or I have no
Yep.
interest, or our college has no interest in it. I think that's something that he could just read on people when they talk to him, right? So we set up a tour. They didn't have the room; they just had the blueprint at the time.
Yeah.
And if you know Centerville, Centerville is a very, very teeny tiny town.
Yep.
The actual main campus of Indian Hills is in Ottumwa. So originally we thought it was that campus. Lo and behold, it was not. It was in Centerville. So we're driving through the hills, like way deep down into south of Iowa, and we hadn't ever been down there. Eli, he grew up in Bettendorf, like
Hmm.
city, city, city. I've been. pretty much on the outskirts of Cedar Rapids, but close enough where, I know what small town is and I know what the city is. So we drive down there and we see this like these little kind of like pods. They almost look like trailers, right? And that's where the classrooms were. And then we see this like barn, and then the barn is where the lunchroom was. But Cole, when he walked us to the campus, he's like, here's our vision, right? They are all in. Like they want wrestling. Like Centerville was known for wrestling, so like they
Yeah.
want to continue that tradition. And they wanted, they had this goal of being the best JUCO college wrestling program in the nation. And so, with a vision and a picture of what we were supposed to see when we arrived there, he just had, it was just something about him, right? Just his whole like enthusiasm, the school's enthusiasm, the excitement from like, the athletic director there. So we just had this like fuzzy feeling, right? We didn't know what to expect until we got there, and then COVID hit. So it was kind of a little bit different on like, is it going to be finished in time? That kind of thing. Um, but a couple weeks later, we signed on for Indian Hills. We were the first ever signees for Indian Hills Community College at that time. And from there, we just, we kept talking about the program, about Cole. He's a one of a kind. He's built something special down there. It shows for itself. The girls they've been national champs the last 5 years in a row, and the boys just won their first national championship this year. That school is about wrestling. That staff is about wrestling, and we've been, it was a great time that I had down there. Being able to jump into the freestyle realm of things. It was definitely a big transition compared to what I think it is now when girls go and they wrestle in college. There's a lot more opportunities for freestyle stuff, just these short 5 years later than there was when I was in high school. It just wasn't
Yeah.
something that was really, I mean, Fargo wasn't nearly as big, right, for the girls' side of things. Like, I think the team that I went with, I think we had like maybe 20 girls, if that.
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
now I see these massive girls teams, coming from Iowa, going to Fargo in just a short 5 years. So I'm like, I think the transition, it was hard on me to transition to freestyle. I had just that one junior season, and then I didn't get to go my senior season to Fargo because of COVID. But I don't regret it at all. I think any girl that, is just even interested in it, it doesn't hurt to dip your toes into it. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But you never know until you try it. So yeah.
You think that 2-year option is a great way to go? I mean, Iowa's done great in Indian
Yes.
Hills, Iowa Western, Hawkeye, Iowa Central, Nyack. I might be missing
There's a
one.
lot of them.
And
Yeah.
those are all Those are all 2-year
Yeah.
colleges. So like 6 or 7 of them in the state of Iowa that
hmm
have women's wrestling now. So what do you think about the 2-year?
So for me, like I preach 2 year to my girls. I know there's a lot of like I don't like to use the word stigma, but there is about JUCO going JUCO. This kid's going JUCO, right? Um, but those JUCO girls, they are competitive and they hold their own at the tournaments that when they go up against D1 or NAIA or other NCAA programs, they have the same amount of talent. They just
Mhm.
took a different road and they transfer into those 4 year programs and compete just the same. You have the same depth of experience and just like raw talent of wrestlers in JUCO that you do in the other divisions. And I think that's something that people don't really understand because I'm going to tell you, like, I wrestled some freaking hard people in JUCO. Like,
Yeah.
it was not no like walk in the park. Like, these were girls that like lived and breathed wrestling. Like, that's what they did. It wasn't like you walk into JUCO and I think people expect, well, that's easy, or because it's, just a 2 year, but that it doesn't just because it's a 2 year doesn't mean that the talent is any different, right? Um, so for me, financial wise, it was the better path. And for 2 years, I got to see if I liked wrestling and freestyle or not. It was a good kind of like stepping stone for me to kind of, like I said, get my toes wet in the realm of college wrestling, right? Also, like it allows kids to get their grades up. Maybe they don't have the best grades to get into a 4-year college program and they can't get those scholarships that they want. But going to JUCO, I was an honor roll student for the 2 years that I was there. So like my grades were stellar. I had never had grades like that ever. I wouldn't have gotten into other colleges with the grades that I had coming in out of high school. Um, and that's just being realistic. So when I graduated from Indian Hills, I had those grades and those test scores, and I had those extra, honor roll. Um, I was on the National Honor Society, so I got access to more funds and grants and scholarships to get me into those 4-year programs when I wanted to transfer, or if I wanted to transfer, that was an option for me. But I also already had a degree under my belt. I think that girls
Yeah.
don't see that. Like in 4 years, you'll get one degree, but in 4 years, you could have had two, right? You
Yeah.
could have had at least your associates, which would have gotten your feet wet if you wanted to have, a little higher paying job or had extra opportunities with that one degree, and then got on to your four-year degree, right? And I tell my girls that a lot. And so for me, like I think I personally like I preach that stuff to my girls and I tell it to any girl that ever asks me, like absolutely 100%. I would 100% recommend JUCO girls wrestling. And they have a legitimate hard bracket tournament in Council Bluffs. I mean, those brackets are huge.
Yeah.
And it gets, I mean, it goes along with the boys tournament there, but I mean, they take it very seriously. I think what they have one of the best national tournaments I've seen personally. The way that JUCO just like really highlights wrestling, and they've done a really good job with that tournament and getting the spotlight on those girls. It's an experience. And I tell people like if you don't know about JUCO, go search the internet. You can find all the answers, all the videos, look up the programs. There's a list of all the programs that are across the nation. Like there's a lot of programs if you actually go looking for them.
Yeah. And reality is, statistically, over half of the girls that go to college and wrestle,
Hmm.
half of them are done within 2 years. Whether that is
Hmm.
a 2 year
Yeah.
program, whether they're injured, whether they've decided wrestling is not for them. So sometimes when you're looking at, do I want to have zero debt, or do I want to have
Yes.
$20,000 of debt in 2 years? You might
Hmm.
have to look at those things. You got to be conscious of those things, because starting
Yes.
off with 30, not that those colleges aren't a good option too. I don't want to ever
Hmm.
say that they're not, but there's a difference between starting your family off with $30,000 in debt
Yep.
and no debt. So
Yes. Yep.
yeah. You mentioned Fargo. I think
Yes.
if I remember right, let's get into some AAU stuff. I believe you
Okay.
went down to Florida as a high schooler also, did you not? Or
I
was I
did. I
you did?
did. So, that was the first year that I had met Eli and Jason. I don't know how I ended up missing the previous year. I guess I wasn't in the know enough, but because Jason had taken a team prior to that, I think it would have been my sophomore
Yep.
season, which would probably explain a lot. But yeah, so my junior year, I went down. I think Grandview was one of the teams and coaches that went down that year.
That
Um,
could possibly be, yeah,
and
because I think,
Waldorf, I think at the
yeah.
time. Um, so went down there. That was a roller coaster of an experience. And it was fun. It was fun and it was busy and it was crazy. But like the competition that you see down there, like I said, I don't think it gets enough hype for what it is. I don't think that like, and I preach AAU a lot because I think the competition is just as deep as a lot of these USA tournaments that people talk about all the time. Like you can go to an AAU tournament and get the same deep competition, I think, and people just don't see that. And so when I went to Florida, like those girls, they were hard girls. Like they were solid girls and they had good records. Like they were no walk in the park. Like these teams that go down there, they stack those teams,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so, I didn't come out of there with no scratches or bruises. Like I'm pretty sure that's the tournament I actually ended up blowing my elbow completely through. Uh, and
Yeah.
so, but so I it was something that I talk about a lot because it was something that I think every girl should be able to experience just what it's like. I honestly wish that I would have been able to have that opportunity my senior year, and I would have had more opportunities in high school to go and do those kinds of things, but I didn't have those opportunities. And so I always tell my girls, like, don't take things what you have right now for granted, right? Like, I grew up in a time where just a short time ago we didn't have, with lack of better words, like absolutely nothing. We didn't have crap. We had to
Yeah.
travel out of state just to get like an 8-man round robin with girls.
Oh
There
yeah.
was no girls tournaments really in Iowa that you could get maybe two girls in one bracket. It was all sparse. Like, so what we have now is something special. And I just tell the girls, like, the opportunities that you are given right now, and families, like I tell them, the opportunities that you see, like a short time ago, was not existent. Like, your girls are growing up in a time where they will never have to experience not ever having girls wrestling ever.
Yeah. And how many
And
times did you
so,
hit a tournament? How many times did you hit a tournament that the weight class was 113 through 135?
yeah,
You know?
Madison weight brackets, that
Yeah,
sucked. That'll be
because there
something
happened to
that
be
I don't see
four
very
girls
often
that
anymore.
yeah,
Exactly. I'm pretty sure I was in a bracket one time. It was like, it went all the way down from like 112 to like 127. That
yeah.
sucked.
Yeah. And
um,
it's and those
it was
things,
not fun. And that was just for five girls in one bracket, right? Five
yep.
girls. You think about that. That's crazy.
Hmm.
And those were at national, national competitions, USA tournaments, AU tournaments. So like, what you see today, these 16-man brackets, these massive brackets at like Tulsa Nationals for the little girls, that is insane. It
Yeah.
is insane to see the amount of numbers and the competition that these girls are having right now.
When we talk about AAU and the opportunity to wrestle at Wells Fargo when you were
Yes.
there, still talked about one of the craziest matches I think that anybody has ever witnessed at the whether boys match, girls match at an AAU
Yes.
state tournament, you and Tatum Parks match.
Oh,
I
yes.
don't even remember who won the match. I just remember hair and blood everywhere.
So I came into that tournament. It was, I had been sick that whole week. Like, I don't think I had practiced that whole week. So like all my other matches, I was dragging the whole time. I'm pretty sure my dad was looking at me like, what the heck are you doing? Like,
Uh-huh.
you do not look right. But I ended up wrestling, I think 112 at that tournament. I think I walked into weigh-ins. I was like 2 pounds, maybe 3 pounds over because I hadn't had any practice. So I was busting tail, running until the very end of weigh-ins, and made it down there. But next day, I don't even know if I could feel my arms half the time. I was just a limp noodle, just trying to get through those matches until the very end. Um, but that match at that time, the Assumption girls were cheering against me, and he had, all of Jason coached, Assumption at that time, and
Yep.
then, obviously I'm dating his son, so Eli's yelling at, for me, and they're yelling at Eli back, and our match is going crazy. But that's something that, I tell my girls right now, and I think my dad tells the girls right now, like, I don't expect, every athlete's different. I don't expect that out of my girls. Not everybody's going to be like that. Um, but that's just something that, like, you can't, I think you can't train that. You're born with that. That type of like grit, I mean, Tatum had her nose literally smashed to smithereens. And I mean, I
Yeah.
always give her props for taping it back up and continuing to go out there.
Yeah, if I
Um,
remember right, they put plugs on both sides and wrapped her head with the Coban.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
just to continue. It was
Yes,
nuts.
and I mean, that's not an expectation, but that's just solid grit. Like, that's just not something that you can teach. That's just somebody that something has to, that has to click within them. That's just that mental toughness for them. But like I said, like, that would never be an expectation for anybody. I wouldn't have, cared if she would have stopped the match and been like, holy buckets, like my nose is like smashed, right?
Yep.
So like that whole match, I think, you know, we had competed against each other for a long time. We were always in the same type of weight class. And that match, I think everything kind of just came to that toe. And we laid it all out there. for what it was. I always just kind of look back to that match as that was just something that I really just I gave everything I possibly had. I think she gave everything she possibly had. Depending on, regardless of what the outcome was at the very end, it was like shaky both ways. But it was a win-win, for me. I don't think, in any of our matches that I had ever wrestled quite as like I just think like as strategic going into it. Like I wanted to put everything I had out there. I felt like
Yeah.
utter crap, but I wanted to compete at my best, right? In front of, there was, I think Jason had 400 girls at that state tournament that year. And I wanted to showcase that. I wanted to put that out there. So it was wild. There was a lot of hair that was gone. I think I don't know, I might have fixed my hair like twice during
Yeah,
the,
no,
during the breaks, but it's just wrestling is just something that you can't, and I tell my girls this too. We train all these moves, right? But you can't ever determine how those are going to play out in a match. Nothing's ever going to look picture perfect. A
yep,
match is not picture perfect. So like I tell them not to get too upset about if something doesn't, if you don't perform it right, or if you're in the middle of live goes that, oh, I didn't take this shot correctly. That match was sloppy, messy, drag out dog fight from the very first start of the whistle to the end. Like I don't think I ever actually shot a clean, like crisp shot that whole thing, but it was just whatever you can get to, right? So
yeah.
I was tired and sore after
But
that.
I think I really think that match for the time, and I
Yes.
think that I think that helped get a lot of people to say, "Oh wait, this is real," you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. I mean, I think, we were at that we shared that space with the boys, right?
Yep,
With the AU tournament that was going on there. And so I think that match we had a lot more than just the girls spectators watching. I think everybody as a whole was watching that match. It was exciting, it was loud. I just remember that like my coach Dustin, his voice is like you can't miss it. So I hear his voice all the time sometimes in my matches when I was
yep,
in college. Like I would just distinctively hear him say something, even though he wasn't there, because I was just so used to him, like yelling something at me. Right? I was just so used to that repetition. I'm pretty sure he ended up losing his voice after that match that day, and Eli, I don't think he could speak the next day. But it was just, I think, it was posted. That match was posted on I Wrestle, and it got a lot of traction.
yep,
And I think it got a lot of legitimacy and eyes on the women's wrestling world. When a lot of people hadn't maybe even looked our direction at that point, because I mean, we were just a small speck in a big boys' world at that point, just a few short years ago. So
yeah. You've had the opportunity to go down to Florida and coach. You and Eli coached one
yes,
year. That was it was fun watching you two as very very young coaches at the time.
yes,
And now we're looking forward to when you can come back and coach for us. Um, hopefully very soon. Uh, what was your experience like coaching? I know you coached an alternate team, which I love coaching alternate teams. It is one of
yes.
my favorite things to do in AAU wrestling. If I get that
Mhm.
opportunity, I always take them.
Yeah. So I think like, and I had first had that opportunity at Twin Rivers prior to going down there to Florida. And that was kind of my first step into the really major like AU coaching side of things. And so got my toes dipped in the water there. And at that point, like if anybody's ever seen me coach matches, I'm very eccentric. I'm very loud, and I don't like sitting in my chair very often. Which I might have gotten in trouble for a couple times. But I like to tell my girls, like, I'm your eyes and ears, right? If you don't see something, like, I'm going to make sure you either hear me or see me showing you it on the sidelines. And so, I like to make those connections with those girls, and their lifetime connections. I'll always be cheering for them in their corner, whether they, remember me or not, or I'm just, a small blimp in their career. But I like to track those girls that I've coached, which led me down to Florida that year. Now, if you've ever seen me and Eli coach together, which you have, on the sideline of that, we don't agree all the time on things. We see things
Uh-huh.
very differently.
I can't
And
imagine.
so we even in the matches, like I would yell something and he would be like, "No, don't yell that." And I'd be like, "Oh, be quiet." Like it's very like yes. So it's kind of theatrical. The kids that we had that year were having a blast picking on us the whole time, and trying to decide who was right and who was wrong. And usually they sided with me. I was always their favorite. Um, but it was, I had girls from different states in Florida that I had on my alternate teams.
Yep.
I had a girl that was deaf. I'd never coached a deaf athlete before. That was a whole new experience for me. But I got to experience something new, right? You always experience something different every time you coach a kid, right? You never know what they're going to throw at you. Um, and so I'm always on my toes, especially when I'm coaching new girls. Like I don't know, what their bread and butter move is. I try to learn, I try to ask questions, but like I said, like if they're coming from different states, if they're coming from different clubs, they're going to be taught things a lot differently. And so I try
Yep.
to keep an open mind, especially when coaching on those national teams, with, what I think may look right or what they've been taught, that kind of thing. But most importantly, like I'm just their advocate, right? I like to have fun with them. I like to, make those connections, make them feel like comfortable with me because they've never seen me before if they hadn't, and just make their experience, worth their while they're down there. We didn't have a full lineup when I went and coached the alternate team in Florida. So every match, it was like I kind of told the girls like we were already going to be losing our duels. We didn't have all the lineups, right? So every match is that's our goal is to win as many of those matches. And for me, that if we won the majority, then that's a win in my book, right? We might have just
Yep.
given up the rest of the points, but to me, we won that duel because we won the majority of those matches that we competed against. So, like I said, like those small goals that I talk about, I do those for my dual teams too. Especially for my alternate teams, we talk about small goals as a team, small goals, going in, out for each individual. And they really, stick to that. That's just been something that I've seen that has worked in my coaching career. I'm always trying to grow and learn off of other coaches too. But I think that's just been something that I've been able to share along the way. When people ask me, what's it like, or I've never coached before, or what's this experience like, I just kind of try to give them different feedback, right? That I've experienced, and I try to get feedback back from other coaches as well.
Yeah, no, those kids, I love coaching those alternate teams, especially you get somebody from out of state and the first duel
Yes.
they're quiet because they don't know anybody, and by the end of that couple days, if it's Twin Rivers 2 days, if it's Florida 3 days, and
Hmm.
it's like they've been teammates the entire time, and
Yes.
you get a you I there was a young lady that I don't know if you met her this year because you were with Jovi and stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But there was a girl from Florida that was on the alternate team 2 years in a
Okay.
row now. And she actually
Oh,
reached out.
okay.
She actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, my high school's making a boys team, but we don't have enough girls.
Hmm.
Can I just be on your team again?" And so your dad got a coach her this
Yeah.
year. So that's cool. That
But
was
yeah.
it's neat that they feel like they're part of, she went out to eat with us and weighed in and all that stuff with
Hmm.
us. So, felt like she's part of Team Iowa.
Hmm.
Those are special things I think about
Yeah.
that we get to do, because we're kind of developing people.
Yeah.
AAU is more of a develop. I look at things like AAU develops people. USA,
Hmm.
you're going to take the top people and go to Fargo.
Yep.
That's your job. But
Yeah.
ours is to make sure that next year that there's more girls on the high school mats and
Hmm.
things like that. So,
Yep.
well, let's get to know Chloe just a little bit better as a person. I got some fun questions,
Okay.
some wrestling questions, some not wrestling questions.
Okay.
Um, I know you have pets because I know one of them was
Yes.
just missing yesterday.
Yes.
So, but came back, so that's good.
Yes,
But
she did. She did.
if you could have any pet in the world, what would you have?
Oh. Um, you know what? I've always had a passion for horses. I used to have one. I got my dad to buy me one once, and I had her for a short time. We boarded her in a boarding facility just right down the road. Um, but that didn't last long, and so then I probably would want another horse at some point. My daughter loves horses. I don't know if you've seen my Facebook post today, but she was on a horse with Eli
Yep.
today at the Farmers
Yep.
Appreciation Festival that we were having here in Center Point. So if I had to pick, I'd probably have another horse. I don't know where I'd put it, but at some
So
point,
so so Eli's gonna have to buy his little girl a horse too, huh?
yes, I told Eli that, and I told my dad, Grandpa, I said,
Grandpa,
"Oh, your
you
grandpa's gonna have to buy Jovi a horse, and you're gonna have to get her one."
he's like, shut up, Chloe.
Yes.
Um, favorite pair of wrestling shoes you've ever worn?
Okay, so my favorite pair, and you'll never find them. If you do, you're gonna pay a pretty penny, and they're never in my size. Would probably be the Asics International Lights, the
Oh,
Glacier
yeah.
edition. Um, I don't know if you've ever seen, but in a lot of my high school, probably since my sophomore year, I won a pair, and Jefferson, they had given me a pair because I had the most fundraising money that year. I should have bought two because that after that they went pretty much extinct. They stopped making them.
Uh-huh.
Um, and being that I have smaller feet and they were boys' sizes, you couldn't get a size 7 to save your life anywhere. So
Uh-huh.
I've cherished those shoes. I'm pretty sure they have no tread on them whatsoever. They're very slick now, but and my girls
They're
make fun of
just
me when they're
broken
like,
in.
"Yes." I'm like, "Don't make fun of me. These are like my golden shoes." So they might not be like the best for grip, but they are the most comfortable and they're my favorites. So yeah.
Nice. I'm a shoe person. Do you have
Yes.
do you have a favorite pair of kicks to throw on when you're just out and about everyday life?
Oh, I'll probably a good pair of Hokas. I like to make sure my feet feel comfortable. I don't like to wear hard shoes or uncomfortable shoes. So usually if I'm going to like tournaments or just like walking around in everyday life, I try to wear a pair of Hokas. Hoka
I've switched
slides,
over.
Hoka tennis shoes.
Yep, I got a couple pair of Hokas myself. I really like them.
Yep.
They are good. Let's get into food because food is a wrestler's favorite subject
Oh.
ever. What's a post weigh-in food for you? What'd you eat?
Okay, so I'm gonna be a little weird, and it was something I've just never been able to kick. I was not a breakfast person ever in my entire life. So instantly, obviously, wrestling tournaments are always in the morning, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to like fuel yourself up, right? Well, it was always I had to get that first match out of the way, and it'd bring me to about 10 o'clock, close to 11. And that's probably when I would eat. So it was always my goal to try to make it through the first match in the morning and not gas out. Because I just like literally I couldn't eat breakfast. I hated it. So post weigh-in or post like first match in the day would probably be I'd have to have my Welch's grape juice and then probably a good bowl of like grapes or some raspberries to like light a little light load, and then that would work me into probably mm, what else? Probably a good peanut butter and jelly, and then I'd be good to go. And then I could eat
Yeah.
anything else. But yeah, I like to keep it simple.
You can't go wrong with the PB&J.
No.
And do you do Uncrustables now? Does Jovi have
Yes, I freeze
Uncrustables?
them. I eat a frozen Uncrustable. I don't know if anybody else does that, but
I
that's
do.
what my family's done. So like I'll always be down for a frozen Uncrustable rather than a
Yeah,
soft one.
that's pretty. That's yeah. I'm a frozen Uncrustable guy
Hmm.
myself. So, do you have a guilty pleasure food? Mine, I will tell you, is ice cream. I could eat ice cream. That's a food group to me, and it's an essential food group. So,
Okay.
what's a guilty pleasure food?
Ooh, probably. I mean, I really, really like ice cream, but I'm gonna be honest, this last like year that I was pregnant with Roz, that was something I literally couldn't choke down. It sucked. I couldn't eat sweets. I hated them. It was the weirdest thing because Jovi, I love sweets. So it's been like a roller coaster, but probably during season, I'd go for a good smoothie or like
Ooh,
a good like anything cold. I never wanted anything hot if I was cutting weight or like weighing in or anything like that. So it'd have to be a cold food. So probably yeah, a good smoothie or ice cream or ice cream cone shake, any of that stuff. Preferably coffee. That might sound weird, but that's my favorite like that's my favorite ice cream flavor is coffee.
that's no, that's not a bad ice cream.
Yeah.
Um, you've got to do some traveling. I've seen, you and Eli have got to go some places. You've been down to Florida a few times.
Hmm.
Is there some, food that you're like, God, I didn't know I'd like that, but I really like it. Is there?
Most recently sushi. I can hammer down a good California roll with some like eel sauce and some spicy mayo. That's probably something that if in high school if you would have asked me if I would eat that, I would say heck no, and you'll never catch me eating that. So that's something that I've recently, probably in the last 2 years, kind of clung to. I would be down for a good California roll pretty much any day of the week.
Now that I know that, next time we're somewhere with Jason, we're going for sushi. Because
Okay.
Jason and I, we found some places, and we always find a place that has good sushi.
Yeah, I have a favorite place here in Cedar Rapids, and I've tried every place that I've went. Every time I go out of state and I try sushi, I try to see if it's comparable, and I haven't found anybody that's going to beat me yet. But if you're ever in the area, I need to take you there to try
Okay,
it.
I can do that. There's also
Okay.
a place, and I can't remember the name of it. It's in Coraville, in that kind of that village area where
Mm,
state tournaments at. And I've been grabbing on Thursday after, after the
yeah,
evening, I've been grabbing rolls there. So I can't remember.
yes. I
It's
haven't tried that
near.
one yet.
It's just a block or two away from the arena, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a really good place. So you might have to
Ooh,
maybe at state tournament
okay.
we'll go down and get some sushi. We'll
Yes.
convince some people to go.
Yeah.
Is there some food that you absolutely will not eat?
Okay, so Kat, if she ever watches this, she's gonna laugh at this because she's trying to get me to eat anything green. I am not a big vegetable person, and so she'd always criticize me, especially when I was going to Pleasant Valley my senior year, and Eli was always a big veggie guy. He could hammer down a bowl of broccoli, and I would just gag the whole time. So you will not ever catch me eating broccoli or green beans of any sort or peas. That would be like an absolute deal breaker. They've tried hiding that stuff from me in other foods, and I catch them every time. They don't believe me. And then I'm like, what is this? It drives Cat nuts. But yeah, that's probably be something that I just won't eat ever.
I think she's mentioned that before to me. I now that you say that, I normally ask people like TV shows and stuff they're binging, but
Hmm.
I know that with kids in your that age group, you
Hmm.
probably get to watch some of the same shows I do because I have grandkids also. So, what
Yes.
is your favorite show to watch with Jovi and Ross?
Oh, I mean, I don't really get a choice anymore. I'm on a repeat of anything dinosaurs lately. Joby is really into dinosaurs, so I'm pretty sure it's like a Pink Fong dinosaur musical show that's been on repeat, or different variations of the same show that's been on repeat the last couple of probably the last year.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so she's been really stuck on that. Now, if I had a choice, I would much rather watch like um I don't know, like I wish that like Go Diego Go was still on with because that was something that I watched when I was a kid. It was way more interesting than like watching this dinosaur sing on repeat every single time I turn the TV on. But she
We've
had
been
no
stuck
interest
on
in that.
Bluey.
Yeah. Oh,
I love Bluey.
really?
We watch a
She
lot
won't
of
watch
Bluey.
Bluey. Oh,
Really?
I had to get her finally off of Coco Melon because that was driving me nuts.
Have you,
But she loves it. She calls
every
her
once in a
JJ all the
while,
time.
we have to watch Miss Rachel, and I can't handle that one.
Oh, she's
The
never really been into that. That's too slow
you're
paced for
yeah,
her. She's
lucky.
like, you're talking too slow for me.
Yeah, you are lucky there. Um, I should have probably gone to this question before that, but you've got to do some traveling throughout your life.
Yeah.
But is there a spot that you really want to go? Is there a vacation spot you're like, I that's on my bucket list?
Ooh, probably like not wrestling related, like just a
Not
true
just
vacation
a
spot.
true
Okay, because
vacation.
anytime these days it's always for something wrestling
Yes,
related. Um,
I understand.
Ooh, probably I want to go on a Europe tour. Like I want to go and just do like a 2 week or some type of tour around Europe. That's my goal. And then like I'd like to probably hit like like Scotland and go to like Italy and that kind of thing. So not like one place, but like one area that I want to kind of want to hit. Yeah.
Hit the Europe.
Yeah.
Go backpack in Europe, you and Eli.
Yeah, backpacking, I don't know, buses, trains. I hear train transportation is way easier there, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's super convenient to kind of travel from place to place over there compared to here.
I know you told me earlier, and probably not on this podcast, but you didn't necessarily have to listen to music before
Hmm.
wrestling. But what are some of the songs? What are some of the music that you like to listen
Oh,
to?
I'm a big country person. I'll listen to country music all the time. I was never a big rap person. So like whenever Eli and I were in the car, like listening to music or standing next to each other, and his playlist would start popping up on my phone, it would drive me nuts because I'm like, get this stuff off of here. He was always a rap guy, and I'm like, if I can't understand it, I don't want to listen to it. So I would always be like, probably listen to some country music, and not that doesn't work for everybody, but it was more about just kind of zoning out the extra noise in the background rather than kind of like getting me zoned in for my match. And most of the time I was zoned in and probably didn't hear the music, so it was just kind of playing headphones at that point.
Yep.
But that's just something I probably listen to the most compared to anything else.
How about in the wrestling room? I know for myself, anytime and the
Hmm.
girls refer to my music as Grandpa Rock now.
Oh,
So we don't get to listen to my playlist very often. So
yes.
what's played in the CPU wrestling room?
Oh, honestly, I'm not even familiar with what's played in the CPU wrestling room. I the girls have their own playlists, and sometimes I have to kind of check them on a few things. I'm like, skip it, skip
Yep.
it. You never know what they're gonna have pop up on their playlist these days, but
I
um,
hear you there.
I'm like, and I never know what the songs are either. I'm pretty sure it's whatever's like local in the whole like pop century world of music going on with whatever they listen to in high school nowadays. But it's always ever changing. They come up with something new all the time. They're like, "Oh, Chloe, like listen to this. Did you hear this?" And I'm like, "No, do I want
No.
to hear it?" So
That's
yeah,
very similar. I think that's where we're at in the
yep.
coaching realm is they don't want to listen to what we want to listen to, and we don't want to listen to what they want to listen to.
No, and I'm like, you know what? At this point, as long as it keeps them like still going with practice and staying on task, I'm okay. That's what I would rather have, unless, if I had them listen to what I wanted to listen to, they probably would like end up not paying
Yep.
attention.
Yep. So when we're talking about music, and a lot of times
Yeah.
I'm using that as that pre-match, but did you have a pre-match ritual? Is there something that you kind of did every time?
Um, no, and I probably like people have asked me this before, and my dad would always like kind of get on me about it because he'd be like, "You should be out there kind of warming up or pacing or doing this and doing that." And I was just kind of just somebody that might just like I'd probably walk up there, probably just maybe just keep my body moving, but I never really had anything in particular. I know I'd always, kind of kind of look to my dad before I go out there, or we would, fist bump or slap hands, that kind of thing. Or with my coaches, I do the same thing there too. And so that was kind of, I guess, in a way, my pre-match ritual. But I know I'd always, come to the circle, grab my band, and kind of turn around, and then kind of just shake it off a little bit before I go into the middle. Um, but yeah, I was just never one that was like really into like pacing or jumping or slapping. These days I see that a lot now, and I'm like,
Yep.
I don't really get the point, but you
I,
just
I
never know what people's rituals are anymore. So
I know. I think they see Felicity doing it sometimes,
I see.
because she does a jump and slap, so
Yeah.
they take one of the two. I've noticed that. Um, you said earlier,
Hmm.
your coach, Kufal, right?
Yes.
Somebody that you still hear in your head.
Yes.
What are some of those phrases that you're like are that you hear from him?
Oh, oh gosh. Usually it's because I wasn't doing something right. So it'd probably be like something that always rings in my ears, like "Get your head up off the mat." And that'd be yelling in my head all the time. So it was something that even like in freestyle, right? I mean, you're laying flat there on the mat. It'd be something I always was like I would just distinctively hear him in the back of my ear. Obviously, he wasn't there, but like it would just be that marker for me to like remind
Uh-huh.
myself to get my head up off the mat and don't have my nose kissing the mat, I guess.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, so uh, just you know, that's just one that really sticks out to me, like really, really distinctly. I think just. his voice just carries. So it's not ever just like one comment. I'm sure Eli would have a lot more. He had a lot more time with a longer, span of years than I ended up having. But that was just something that really stuck with me. I tell my girls that all the time, when they're out there, and that's something that they said that they hear a lot when I'm like yelling at them to get their head up off the mat or keep their chest up, that kind of thing. That was probably another one, keep my chest up, my head up, and stay moving. Stay moving. If I got stationary, he would always yell
Hmm.
at me to keep my feet moving, stay moving, push the pace. Push the pace was a lot. I'd probably hear that one a lot. So I don't know. His voice is just carried with me. And to this day, like especially when I'm like in a match, right? Well, like I'm coaching matches, but like I'm actively like moving, right, with my girls.
Uh-huh.
And so like I'll like hear things and I'm watching it play out and then I'll end up yelling that of like what I distinctively am like watching play out.
Yep.
So yeah.
What's your favorite position wrestling wise? Are you a neutral, bottom, top person? What's your place?
Ooh, so probably top was my go-to, um, neutral, and then bottom. Um, Never really, I mean, bottom, I was really good at defending on bottom. I was really flexible, so I didn't get like turning me was kind of hard. And so that was just something I would always go to. Like if I was in a pickle of a match and I knew like I was up and I had choice, I'd probably end up picking bottom because I knew I could probably hold it off there a lot better than like going on top or going neutral on somebody. So, but go to would probably be top. I liked riding legs a lot. I liked breaking girls down a lot. So that probably my go to.
It's a leg rider, and
Yes.
what's your go-to? What are you teaching now for pinning combination?
Oh,
What's the team's go-to now?
okay. So when I my coaching style is a little different. And maybe you might be able to kind of, put some pointers into, but like for my girls, for instance, like if I teach something, I always try to modify it for everybody's in particular style, right? And
Hmm.
size too. So like, like somebody that's wrestling like 170, their riding legs is not going to look the same as somebody that's like wrestling 100 pounds, for instance,
Yeah.
right? So I show it very just like generic what it's going to look like, but then I walk around each individual and kind of just adjust it or show them just a little bit, a couple different tweaks that might just work better for them. And that's helped kind of keep them on pace with that because some of them would be like, I can't do that or I can't understand that, right? And so that's when we talk about like breaking it down. How can we make it a little bit different? It's not going to look, super set in stone. So probably this year we're going to implement a little bit more legs. Last year, we kind of tried it towards the end. It wasn't something that we really worked on a lot, but girls have strong hips. So if we can
Yeah.
get, if we can get legs, that's something that I think is really powerful. Just I try to tell the girls like we got to use our parts of the body that are strong. We can't just rely on our arms. Our arms are not going to be nearly as strong as a girl's legs, right? Our hip pressure is very strong.
Hmm.
So breakdowns wise, I'm trying to teach them to kind of flow into different things, not be so, stuck on I'm going to keep chopping. I'm going to keep chopping. I'm going to keep chopping, right? I want to
Yep.
keep them moving and break them down. So, really big on turns on top. But I'm trying to make sure that they have girls broken down first before they get too trigger happy and go trying
Yep.
to roll somebody over and end up missing an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So,
The next thing you know,
um,
that they're getting rolled through because they got too high on
exactly,
something. Yep.
exactly. Yes. Teaching
Yep.
them kind of be body aware. You just got to know where your legs are and where your upper body is and where your weight distribution is. So teaching those just little things too has kind of helped. So just as a whole, I try to kind of break down moves into that. Like I teach, their body awareness and I teach, where their weight distribution needs to be. So rather than just like showing a move, I also walk through the process of what it's supposed to feel like, right? How my body's supposed to move, where my hips are supposed to be, and so that's something that we're going to really work on, especially with a lot of the littler girls coming in. It's going to look a
Hmm.
little bit different since I've been working with a little bit more of the upper weights. So we're going to switch some stuff up this year. Yeah.
Yeah, we started legs last year too, and the ones that have embraced it have done very
Hmm.
well with it.
Yes.
And the more I actually it was, and you say you're working with different size girls. Today I had an open
Hmm.
mat. I had two girls show up. It was a Saturday morning, so I didn't figure it was going to be a lot of girls showing up anyway. But one was the 145 and one was the 115. So it was an
Yes.
interesting one. The 145 happens to be a super tall, thin girl,
Hmm.
lean and super tall, like, and the
Yep.
other one is about, I'm not very tall. The other one comes up
Hmm.
to about my shoulder. So
Yeah.
it was quite a contrast in coaching today,
Yes.
but it was good
Yes.
for them because they got different things. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's definitely hard to do everything individualized.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Fun question for you. If
Okay.
you were a superhero now, what's your superpower?
Ooh. Probably to like teleport somewhere, anywhere I want. So I don't have to like
Okay.
sit there and like do things for hours on end and sit and drive somewhere or fly somewhere. I can just like snap of a finger to like teleport anywhere in the world. That's probably
That's
what I'd like to do most. Yeah,
Yeah,
make
I
my life a
like
whole
that.
lot easier.
That would make everybody's life a whole lot easier. We should figure that out. Um, let's just say you got a promotion to the head of the NFHS and you get to decide a wrestling rule or change
Oh,
something, change a wrestling rule. What do you think you'd do?
oh, okay. So I'd probably add push out rule to
I like
wrestling.
that. Yep.
Um, Either that or just flat out change to like modified wrestling. I think that like for me personally, I like that happy medium. It gave me a little bit of experience going into freestyle, but like still stuck true to like the folk style roots, right?
Hmm.
But it just like for me, if I seen that, I feel like it kind of prepare my girls a little bit better, especially to be more mat aware too of their surroundings. And I think it would make those matches be a little bit more, pushing that pace. They had to stay moving, they had to stay vigilant, kind of thing. So, if anything that I could change, that would probably be if at minimum I'd like to add a push out rule.
Yeah, I really think that would be a great addition. Matches would speed up,
Mhm.
people circle in, we'd wrestle in the middle and not on the edge.
Yes.
So it makes that stall call. There's no stall call, then you just call,
Yep.
it's just the point. You don't have to worry about that.
Hmm.
Um, you're kind of at that point where, you've been through all of this. Now you're coaching, but I don't know how to ask this question maybe for you is different than asking it for a high school girl. I usually ask them, is there somebody that you look up to and aspire to be?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, there's so many good world team members right now.
Oh yeah.
Is there people that you recommend like your girls watch?
Mm. So like grit wise, one that always just like sticks out to me would probably be like obviously Helen Maroulis. Like to
Hmm.
me, I don't think like she's always somebody that's name's always up there, but I don't think she gets nearly as much as the hype that she deserves. She just has been somebody that just keeps coming back, right? She's had some brutal injuries. She's been
Yes.
in the game a long time, and she just always finds a way back to just kind of keep pushing that pace, keep pushing the pace with the girls, changing with the years as wrestling grows and as wrestling changes and new girls come into the sport. I feel like she's a really good adapter to things. I don't feel like she's been somebody that like is too stagnant. I feel like she's always open to change and changing in her style. And it's worked for her. She's been staying competitive, right? So for me, that's somebody that I tell my girls to go and watch. It's really fun to see like, a lot of the new girls coming up in college, but just like I tell them to go watch her just because she's just been around for so long,
Yep.
right? There's so much video on her and you can see the progression of like, you know, couple years back where she was compared to like where she is now, that kind of thing. There's just that trail there to kind of watch. And I think that's kind of fun to kind of be able to get a glimpse of into somebody else's like career and watch that growth in somebody. Because we just don't, even with the new college girls now, you just don't quite get that depth, as it's getting more traction now compared to what it did. And Helen's been on the world team and Olympic teams for quite a while now. So she's just been always somebody that really kind of sticks to my mind.
Yeah. No, I love watching Helen wrestle. finish this sentence for me since you're
Hmm.
starting school again. Well,
Yes.
you're
Oh,
there.
yes.
You're not having to go, but this is a fill in the blank. Wrestling has taught me to blank.
Oh, take it for what it is and keep on moving. Basically, like anything in a match, I'd always be, if I got hurt, I took it for what it was, and I had to make that choice to either keep on moving or give up. And I was not somebody that liked to give up very easily. So, that's just been something that I've kind of lived by with the sport.
All right. I think I've gotten through all of my outline. My last thing always is a final thoughts, profound statements from Chloe Lloyd.
Oh boy. Okay. I would just say like to the girls coming into the sport, or maybe for the girls that are on edge or the girls that don't know if they even want to continue into college, don't ever be afraid to keep, trying new things, right? Don't ever be afraid to get your feet wet in a couple different things. I always tell people to branch out, go experience different clubs, right? Go experience different coaching styles. Everybody's wrestling journey is different. Take chances. Um, don't give up on opportunities because those opportunities are not, you're getting to live in a time where those are always available to you, and don't take those for granted because there was a time when that wasn't available and it wasn't very long ago. And so growing up now, just take those, and take as many of them as you can because high school goes fast, your college career goes fast, anything can change in a flip of a switch. I've been one that has experienced that for myself. And so just live in the moment, keep on moving, but just keep pushing the pace and just don't be afraid to try new things.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you for
it.
having me.
And now we're gonna have sushi next time I run into you, so that's awesome.
Yes, yes, we're going to have
Does
to do
he
that.
does Eli eat sushi?
Eli eats sushi, but he also grosses me out because he'll eat like raw things or squid, for
Well,
instance, and I'm just, ugh,
yeah.
gross.
Well, maybe you shouldn't go with
I don't
Jason and I
like
because
eating sushi with him at the table.
we put some stuff away. I will tell you that. So that
Okay.
it'll be all right. I will
All
see you
right.
soon. We'll
All
talk to
right.
you later.
Thank you, Troy.
Yep.
Yep.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.